From Secret Service to Sacred Service, the Sneakin Deacon, Deacon Greg Gitschier, is on Spirit Inspires starting right now.
Broadcasting from the Cathedral of the Assumption in Louisville, Kentucky, this is Spirit Inspired. And now, here is your host.
Hello and welcome back to Spirit Inspire. I'm your host today, Eric Huff, and joined with me as always is my wonderful co-host, John Soul.
Hello everybody, welcome back.
And a couple of new faces. So helping us to host today is Chuck Obichefu, sitting right over here.
He said it without skipping a beat. Yeah, I'm right here.
Do you think you're gonna have to
Hooked on phonics, like walk you through it like phonetically, like
it's because we've already been there.
We crossed that bridge, crossed the Rubicon.
That's right. Today we have the pleasure to interview a good friend of mine, really a mentor in my life especially through the years I was at St. Patrick. He did my marriage prep. Deacon Greg Gitschier. Welcome on, Deacon Greg.
Happy and proud to be here. Thank you. Honored.
That's awesome. Well, Deacon Greg, we've got a lot to talk about, and only so much time to cover it. You've got an amazing story. I brought my copy of your book, which is sitting here. Hopefully, we can get that signed on camera at some point during the podcast. But let's just start with where you grew up, what your upbringing was like, and maybe get us to how you ended up in the Secret Service, which is pretty amazing stuff. And if there are local details, Louisville related, I'd say a good bulk of our listeners are here in town, so they'd probably love to hear that stuff too.
Yep. Well, I was born at St. Joe's Hospital on Eastern Parkway, which is no longer there, Preston Eastern Parkway. And my dad is a devout Catholic, tried to be a daily communicant his whole life. And I think the reason for that is he was almost killed in World War II as a young 18, 19-year-old.
Wow.
I suspect he made a pact with God along the way there and says, if you get me out of this one, So anyway, so he raised us, myself and my two brothers, older and younger, very, very Catholic. And my mom was not. She was a Baptist. And later in life, she, on her own, decided to become Catholic. So she was a Baplic or Caplist, whatever they want to call you. But she always went to Mass with us, and I can remember going to confession. My dad was an FBI agent for about 21, 22 years, and he spent 15 years in New York City. So I was born in Louisville, but I kind of was raised in New York City. And I can remember going to church in St. Anthony's on Saturday night, and if the stars were lined up, we could hear the WHAS U of L basketball game, and it would come in. I mean, we're up in New York, and it'd come in, skip in and go out and skip in, and we try to get the score, going to confession. So that's a fond memory of mine. Before New York, we did live in Jersey at St. Peter's, which is a big Catholic school there. So I went to St. Peter's Catholic School, and then in New York, I went to St. Anthony's Church. Moved here to Louisville, Kentucky, my sophomore year. And at that point, after paying New York taxes, even in those days, my dad didn't have a savings account. So he says, "I'm sorry, I can't afford to send you to one of the Catholic schools. So so you have to go to public school." So I did. And quite honestly, going to public school, we were at the time the biggest public high school in the state of Kentucky. I had 600 plus students. It's called Westport High School. And when they built Ballard High School, they shrunk down Westport into a middle school, which it is today. But we did have a huge school, and it's full of attractive young ladies, so that didn't hurt my feelings too much. So I got a lot of good friends, and then somehow or another I got elected class president at the end of the junior year. So ever since then, I've had to put on reunions, which always fell down on my responsibility. You're the class president. You got to do the reunion.
That's a lot of weight.
That is a lot of weight.
But I had a marvelous crew of people that are in my class to help me for every one of them. And we just had our 50th last August.
Wow.
50, yeah. So, and the same one guy and the two ladies, and man, I tell you, they were workhorses, and we got it done.
You said you only had like one guy and two ladies show up. For
Myself
50
and
years?
another guy. All the others, 6 or 7, were girls in my class. Yeah.
Wait, like as in there's only
Classmates.
like 4 people that
Oh,
have showed
the-
up for 50 years.
Yeah.
to
No,
the-
we
to-
set it up. No.
No, that was the committee that
That's the
led
committee.
it. Actually, these guys are workhorses. They got 7 people to show up.
I know you're a lawyer and you like cross-examining people. But come on, man. Come on, man.
You said the class of what was this class of?
Well, the senior class then was 600, but yeah.
So how many did you get? at
We
the 50th?
graduated probably 200 and something, and then we had over 100 at the 50th reunion.
Wow.
Which is really good,
Dang.
actually.
That is good.
And it was fun.
Like, still.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always like having them at the Knights of Columbus Hall on River Road.
Go Knights.
Because that was my council for a long time until I started a new one out at St. Patrick's. But I used to go to the River Road Council, and the gentleman down there, John Albury, he's also our Jefferson County Sheriff. He always took really good care of me and provided a great service. So I reckon when I prepare couples and they're looking for a cheaper place to have a wedding reception, I said check out the Knights of Columbus. It's not fancy, but it's really good food, and it's right on the river. And
I've
it's
seen
just
that.
a nice environment.
I've
Yeah.
seen that council house on it's like River.
Yeah, it's on the river near Zorn. Yeah.
Okay, I've seen it. Like
I've never been in there either.
no.
Oh well, they have fish fry every Friday all year long, and they have fried chicken on Sunday nights.
Oh, I need to check that out. Yeah.
And it's very inexpensive and very good food. I've known that chef forever. He does good work. But anyway, so that's where our reunion was. So grew up kind of in New York and then moved back here.
What do you feel you're more? You feel you're more. I mean, obviously you're diehard Louisvillian, but like how much New York in you? Do you
Hey, forgot about it. What do you think? You want to get a coffee and a dog, or what? You go down Torrey Tart
dog?
Street and look at the boys.
He said,
I grew up in an Italian neighborhood.
The dog.
And I was probably the only guy that wasn't Italian, but I look like I'm a mixed breed anyway, so I could fit for Italian or Spanish or
The De Niro.
anything, yeah.
De Niro and Goodfellas and the Irishman, right?
Right.
Like the,
yeah. So I could fit in, but anyway, I was in an Italian neighborhood, so it's kind of funny. The guys, we had a good time growing up, and we did a lot of stuff together. But coming to Louisville was a great experience, and I loved it so much. When I was a police officer here for the first 6 years, I rode in the west end of Louisville, which would be the Cane Run Road, Algonquin Parkway area. Very poor white on part of it and very poor black on the other part of it. So as a 21-year-old cop, it was a great experience dealing with people every day, and helping them out and trying to keep the crooks at bay. But it was a great experience for me as a 21-year-old kid. And then I was fortunate. I continued on with my master's degree from the University of Louisville. And so with 6 years of police experience and a master's degree, it did make me a viable candidate for the Secret Service. So
Wow.
I kind of got recruited by him, by a guy I had met. And I was on the police dive team. And when the Secret Service came in, I think it was a vice presidential visit, I was one of the guys that dove on the Ohio River to check the boat for bombs, the Belle of Louisville. So I met some Secret Service guys.
And with your dad being in the FBI.
Yeah. And I
probably
didn't want
helped.
to be. Yeah, absolutely. But yes, you're right. And everybody said, why don't you go in the FBI? I'm like, well, I didn't want to be his son. Oh yeah, I know how you got. I know how you got in here. Your daddy got you in. So. But he always said, Secret Service or FBI, I'd pick one of those two. That was his opinion.
What's up?
So, it worked out. So I was with them for almost 22 years, 21 and a half, I think. And then I retired and I was teaching college. I was teaching current issues in terrorism at one of the local colleges, which I really enjoyed. And then I also do security for PGA. So Valhalla was having one of its tournaments, and I meet the new mayor of Louisville. He just got elected. And his security, his police officer said, hey, this is the guy that trained us all. He was a Secret Service agent here. And so the mayor goes, really? You train all my bodyguards? I said, yes, sir. He goes, well, I need you to be my bodyguard. I said, oh, no, I'm done with all that stuff. Well, Mayor Fisher talked me into it. So I got sworn in again as a police officer in Louisville. And then I did 5 years of his first years of as a mayor. Wow. So which was interesting because, from that, when you're with the mayor, you're a fly on the wall, you're standing on the wall and there all these closed door meetings and you kind of see how things get done in Louisville, right? Kind of behind the doors without the media.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can remember so many discussions. Ones that stand out was they were trying to bring a pro basketball team here. I don't know if you remember that. They were trying to bring, I think, the Seattle Supersonics or whatever they were, and that was kind of like a secret deal, And then Google was going to come in and lay down all the wires. This has been 10 years now.
Yeah.
Google was going to come in and lay down all the fiber,
Like Google
cable.
Fiber, yeah.
So then that was like a big deal, stuff like that. So when you're a bodyguard, you just sit there. You don't talk. You don't participate. You just listen. And you hear a lot of cool stuff going on behind the closed doors. Yeah.
Did either of those things happen?
No. Can't lie. They did not.
Poor Louisville, Kentucky.
We have a long way to go, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit to the Secret Service.
Yes, sir.
And being the fly on the wall there. I guess
This is so cool.
I guess what I'm getting at. I mean, there's a couple of key moments that I'm aware of, just knowing you that I want to talk about. But give us a run through of who were some of the people that you were assigned to protect.
So when you're a young agent, if you start in a big city, you'll get put on a squad, a lower level squad. And then if you start in a small office like I did, I was fortunate to stay in Louisville because when you apply, they tell you we can send you anywhere. You're new meat. We could send you to New York City, LA. We could send you Miami, Chicago, whatever. But it just so happened they had an opening in Louisville, so I got that.
So your first assignment, you got to
Stay in Louisville. Yeah.
For how long?
Maybe a year and a half or so.
Damn,
2 years.
I thought it was like unheard of. They let you stay.
Yeah, well, no, they you have to get your feet on the ground. Then there has to be an opening. So what happened was I was here, and the president's PPD, Presidential Protective Division. They have a team called the CAT team, CAT, and they're basically a counter assault team. They look totally like SWAT, 100. You'd think they're all SWAT, every one of them, and they trained with the military, with some of their elite special forces unit, and so they were a Secret Service, basically a SWAT team. Their whole job was to travel with us. And these are agents. Travel with us, and if the motorcade came under attack, or if where he's in a speech, he's doing a speech, something happens, their job is to divert the shooter attention away from the president and draw the fire towards them. And they were like they're like having a special forces unit, a SEAL team, or a Green Beret, or anybody like that.
They're like HRT, FBI HRT, direct action type people.
Yeah. Well, not. I mean, I think our guys, they all look like football players, and all they do is work out and travel. It's like being on scholarship, right? It's like being on a football scholarship.
Yeah.
And they're all bulked up, and they're in really good shape, and they're excellent shots. So I wanted to be one of those guys. I just came out. I was fortunate. I got to play football at Louisville for 3 years, and then my senior year, I knew I wasn't going to go anywhere, so I joined the police department. But anyway, so I wanted to get back into that teamwork, camaraderie and stuff. So I volunteered to go to there. And so you have to take a pre-test and work out and push-ups, pull-ups, shooting, and all this stuff, running in a mile and a half. It's so quick. And I was all ready to take it. And then I get a call when they said, "So you're Greg Gitschier?" "Yeah." He goes, "Well, this is so-and-so at headquarters." "Yeah, okay. What can I do for you?" "So you want to go into protection, huh? I see you filed for the CAT team." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, well, we're going to give you protection, but it's not going to be the CAT team. You're moving out to California. And you'll be in President Reagan's, they call it the Western White House." So President Reagan was in his second 4 years, just starting. So I went out there to his Santa Barbara ranch. But we would also come back to the White House about 2 weeks every month as well. So we were the younger guys that would travel because the family guys would be hard on their wives and kids, Yeah. So they said, "Now, if you could do this, do a good job for us here, then we'll get you on the CAT team, your next assignment." So, it's not like I could say no.
Right.
So
You're like, I guess I'll protect the president of the United States.
I guess so.
Well, you got to remember in those days, which would have been 1986, 7, 86. Well, yeah. I graduated the Secret Service Academy in 83. So this would have been right in 84.
Okay.
And so that's when Yasser Arafat was the number one terrorist in the world. I'm pretty sure you can fact check me on this. PLO. Yeah. Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO.
Ain't that something?
So Yasser was the number one guy in the world that was a threat to, I think, our way of life, right? So
This is also the height of the Soviet Union and
Yes.
all the collapse of
tear
communism.
down that wall.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot going on in that early mid 80s there. And the other guy, the guy from Libya,
Gaddafi.
no, what's his name from Libya? Gosh, it went blank. It's hard getting old. But anyway, I'll think of it here in a second. But anyway,
Not Muammar.
no, he put $1 million hit out, a bounty on all Reagan's kids.
Holy
So
smokes.
we ended up taking them under our umbrella. They were older kids, by the way. So there's Michael, and there's Maureen, and there was Patty, and Bronny Jr. Yeah. So because they all had bounties on them, we had to give them an extra detail. So that's kind of why they formed it, the Western White House, I guess. But then like one of the daughters was very active as an ambassador for Women Against Violence. So she's the one that took really me all over the world. I mean, we probably went to 40 countries just with her alone.
Dang.
Yeah, Maureen Reagan. Yeah, and she's very, very active and always going somewhere. So it was cool. I got to experience that. But yeah, it was crazy times. And by the way, 10 years later, I was assigned to go over with President Clinton to Jerusalem, 99 maybe. And while we're in Jerusalem, and I was just an extra guy, I wasn't assigned to his detail. My 4 years with Ronald Reagan, but I've been assigned to 5 other presidents on TDY's temporary duty assignments, right? So I was with Clinton on this one, and we flew into Jerusalem. And while we're there, and it's great because I got to visit, the place. Went to, all the places you want to go to when you go to Jerusalem. Because when you're off, you might work 10 hours and you're off for, the rest of the time. So I did all the sightseeing stuff while instead of sleep, I wanted to go do this stuff. So I did,
that's awesome.
Birthplace of Christ and, Golgotha and all these old wall, the Wailing Wall, all this stuff. And so we got to report back to the command post right away. It's like, oh, what's going on? So we go back and they said, President Clinton accepted an invitation to go see Yasser Arafat in 2 days. So we're all rolling. And we're like, 2 days? Because, normally when the president goes somewhere, especially overseas, you're talking about a 6, 7, 8 day advance to do everything from A to Z. Where the plane going to land,
the bubble,
all the stuff, all the intelligence, the other government agencies that provide intelligence for us. But you just don't ever rush anything. Well, he's going to rush us. So we took him into the West Bank. No, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, Gaza Strip was on the water of the West Bank. So we took him in there and spent the day there, and that was pretty interesting.
So that was I might be wrong. Wasn't that like around the same time like the Accords, it's a peace deal that he was a part of.
In the Middle East?
Yeah, it's like
is that the one that was up at the summer cottage? I mean, what do you call it?
Yeah, it's called the something Accords.
My memory's going on me.
No, it's just,
I'll think about it.
I'm
Where
not
the
sure
president
exactly.
goes on weekends in Maryland.
Camp David Accords. Yes, that's what.
Yeah,
was that around?
I don't want to say because I'm not sure.
well, it was definitely just a couple years before September 11th.
That could have
Yes.
been.
Right?
That wasn't Jimmy Carter, was it? No, it was probably Reagan, I guess. But so that was kind of interesting.
Well, with as many countries as you've been, I'm amazed that you can even keep any of that straight.
Well,
with
I
all
don't-
the
I
details you've had.
Yasser,
Exactly.
Yasser Arafat was the one guy, and Muammar Gaddafi was the PLO guy. Yeah, okay. Pretty sure that's right. I don't know why it came to me, but I think that's right. But here's the thing with the Arab culture, as I've been instructed. If you're invited by their leader, which we were, that you are hands off. They can't, no one else can bother you when their king or their leader invites you. I just hoped all these terrorists were paying attention in class that day when they taught them that. Because we're rolling around here like the ugly Americans. It's pretty obvious who we are. Every other guy has an AK-47. And it's like, okay, we're kind of at their mercy. But it actually happened a third time. I was with Reverend Jesse Jackson, 1984, running for president.
Rainbow Coalition.
The Rainbow Coalition. So I was assigned as someone running for president, right? So I was on the shift, and we're at the White House, and we're supposed to do something, fly out West Coast the next day, and they call everyone and says, hey, everyone go to the White House dock and get your shots. And we're like, to go to L.A.? He said, no, we're not going to L.A. We're like, where are we going? Well, you'll find out at the briefing, Okay, so we're getting all these gamma shots and all this stuff, for like third world country type shots.
Yeah.
So we find out that we're going to fly into Damascus through Germany. So we're going to land in Germany. We're going to catch a flight into Damascus, and then we're going to pick up a guy by the name of Lieutenant Robert Goodman, who was a Navy aviator, got shot down over the war zone there in Beirut. Remember when we were at? I don't know if you guys remember.
Was that before the bombing or after the
This
bombing?
is they were shooting at our planes, and they got his plane, and he had to parachute out. Well, they captured him, so he was an official POW. But Assad, President Assad, not this one, but his daddy, had an American pilot as a POW, which is, this is kind of up the level, pretty serious stuff, right? So he would not release him to then President Reagan. This is before I got assigned to Reagan. This is the years before. So they would not release him to Reagan, but they would release him to Jesse Jackson. So it was kind of like a little, like in your face.
It's like what they did to Carter, right? When they wouldn't release the Iranian hostages under his, they waited until like 12 midnight to give him back to Reagan.
Yeah.
It's
a political, in your face.
Yeah, but Jesse Jackson didn't even win the presidency.
but the guy was trying not to give Reagan the satisfaction.
Right.
He wanted to give it to Jesse Jackson, who, obviously being an African American descent, it was a big deal that that he would release them to him. And then as agents assigned to him, obviously we were very much aware of the potential of Reverend Jackson getting hurt, and it looked like it's one of those Secret Service cover-ups, like, oh, well, they let it happen type of thing. So
That's crazy.
We're very much aware that, and I spent a lot of time with Reverend Jackson, and he was very, very likable, very likable to me.
He was afforded that protection just as a candidate.
Yeah, but he got it Thanksgiving weekend. Normally they don't get it till like Easter, but because they were afraid of something happening to him, so over Christmas I was actually doing you do 3 weeks at a time when you're TDY. I was doing my 3 weeks at Christmas, and they extended us past Christmas holiday to go over to Beirut. So while we're in Beirut at the Damascus Hotel, I could see their anti-aircraft guns just clicks away, firing at our pilots. Still. They're still. I mean, those are our guys up in the air, and they're firing, and we're behind enemy lines. It's a weird feeling.
That's the one question. Is this before or after the bombing? The
when the Marines got the Marine, I don't know. I really don't. I don't have the timeline in my head.
Are you considered a veteran for that?
I
mean, that's
right?
like
it's funny.
amazing.
So people say, "Oh, we have anyone who served our country overseas stand up," and I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those guys that stolen valor.
Thank you for your service, sir.
I'm not going to be a stolen valor and stand up because they're honoring the military, who I honor a great deal.
Stolen valor.
But I'm thinking, I carried a gun in probably close to 70 countries in the world, and I have been in war zones, that's for sure. But anyway, yeah.
Wow.
Stolen
what a
valor.
witness.
Yeah. So I think this is a good time to kind of to go to the next transition, I think, in life, which would be which is the title of the book, or the subtitle of From Secret Service to Sacred Service. So what was the kind of faith journey that drew you into the diaconate? Obviously, you had a great background before with your family. But what kind of moved you to make that next step?
Well, I was turning 50, and I was getting ready to retire from the Secret Service. My colleagues that were a little older than me had already got established into a kind of a little elite bodyguard team. And this is 2004, so you're talking 20 years ago. They were getting paid $1,000 a day, flying around in Learjets, staying at 5-star resorts all over the world, bodyguarding CEOs of big corporations. And they're like, "Hey, Gitch, we got a spot for you, man. You just let us know when you're going to retire, and we'll put you in the lineup." And I'm like, "Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. I'll take that $1,000 a day at Learjet any day." So that was my plan. You know what they say about if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plan.
Yeah. Right.
Man proposes.
So one of my last bodyguard assignments was bodyguarding Saint Pope John Paul II, United States visit. And
what's that you said, John? What a witness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what year?
99.
So
Well, is it 99? 2000? I get them mixed up with my dates. I'm sorry. It's right.
So
there,
it was
2000.
his
It was his
last
last U.S.
time.
visit. Yeah.
Mm.
Damn.
And he stayed at the Archbishop's residence in St. Louis, who was quite an archbishop. You know what I'm talking about. The names always escape me now. But he went to Rome and he stirred up a lot of things in Rome. But a lot of people really, really appreciate him.
Yeah.
Name escapes me. I might think of it. But anyway, so, here's the deal with Secret Service. Throughout my whole 20-year plus career, I'd go to all the offices. You'd be in New Orleans doing a visit, Atlanta, Kansas City, Seattle, wherever you were at, Chicago, Cleveland, and every once in a while you'd see somebody with their picture up and the Pope is in the background. And they'd all say this. Every one of those guys said the same thing. If you ever get a chance to be on the Pope's detail, do it no matter what it takes, do it. So here I am getting into the retirement. I've already applied for like 4 or 5 of them and didn't get it, because there's probably 400 or 500 agents that would apply. There's 6 people on the shift, 6 on the morning shift, 6 on the evening shift. So I'm thinking, what are my chances? I put in for it. I get picked. So now I'm one of the 12, right? So then
He said one of the 12.
One of the 12. I mean, we're talking about the apostles. That's amazing.
wow, Chuck, you're right. You got me on that one.
One of the 12. Oh, wow.
That wasn't intentional, by the way. But so there's 6 on my shift, 6 on the other shift, right? So we got to go through all this training, and so we get day work, which is probably the most active, right? Day work, right? So that's the one you wanted if you had to pick from the 2. So I got the one. I'm one of the 12. I'm on day work, and out of the 6, you go through a week of training, and that's when chemical warfare was really getting big, right? This is right before 9/11. But we had guys from the military train our guys that had these hazmat suits on under their suits, and they had like a backpack, and in that backpack they had what do they give when they give you a shot of, is it
adrenaline, right? So
yeah,
like
it's some
straight
kind
to
of
the heart.
yeah.
If you get
Epinephrine. Thank you. So they all carried epinephrine pins.
I'm so glad Chuck's here today.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone else in the world would have gotten
could not have.
My
given-
mind-
What's that
is
called? I've never heard the word epinephrine.
Patrick, you
before
might
in my
have to
life.
start looking stuff up that we
Yeah.
can't remember.
That
So-
is
Hey,
awesome.
Patrick, you need to fact check
Hey,
me.
Jamie,
really.
pull it up.
Like, who was the cardinal in St. Louis?
Yeah,
Or
no, he's a
bishop of
famous
St.
cardinal. He's been in trouble.
It's Cardinal Burke.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
There we go. There we go.
See,
I
teamwork.
met him here in Louisville.
It's
Nicely
teamwork.
done.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
it was really neat being around him too, by the way. So now I'm on the 12. I'm on day work. We all go through a week of training. We all do the shooting. We all do the practicing the formations. We got an earplug, and they're telling you, flank left, flank right, watch out, do this, da. And then so we all work together, and then the boss gets to pick one guy to be the number 1 position. There's 6 positions. 6 is the driver. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so we got to pick one position. I'm just so happy to be there. I could care less, really,
Right.
at that point.
Right.
He goes, okay, the number 1 position is Gitschier. And I was like, and all these other guys are going, what? How did he get it? And all this stuff. So I was the number 1 position.
That's either
John,
St. Peter or the
I was this
beloved
close to him
disciples.
for his trip.
John Paul II.
Number 1 means
Dang.
close escort. So if you see the pictures in the book, I'm next to his door. And then when he's on the altar, doing mass or preaching, I'm right in front of the altar. And that's when he was kind of getting a little more feeble, right?
Yeah.
So I would escort him, in and out. And so God obviously had a huge part in this to make me one of the 12 out of the 400 or 500 that applied.
Which apostle would you think? Which apostle would you call yourself, John or Peter?
Well, one of the 2.
I don't know about. Of course,
No, he was with St. Peter. He would have been the beloved disciple in this case.
Yeah, he was the one. He was
I don't
he
know.
was laying on his chest. Yeah, he was that close. That's awesome.
Now, I think the statute of limitations will run out. Number 1, yes, I did kiss his ring, on duty as a Secret Service agent, which is a big no-no. The only person that complained on me was the vice president. I'll just leave it at that. And the other thing I did is I brought a little Ziploc bag of rosary beads and medals and asked if he would bless it. So you notice mine, that's the same as his crosier.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was the Holy Father. I shouldn't say he. The Holy Father was kind enough to bless my scapular and my medals. And
So
rosary
that right
beads.
there was one of the ones
yeah,
that he
yeah.
blessed?
Gitschier, you kissed the ring?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's like
That's amazing.
But here's the other. So the other 5 guys, and we're like any group of guys that kind of rag on each other, right? I mean, that's what we do. And so they're like, oh, here comes the ring sucker now. So for the rest of the visit, I was the ring sucker, right?
Oh man!
But I will say this: when the Holy Father left, you know what the name of his airplane is, by the way? Anybody know? All those planes have nicknames, Reagan's and everything. Anyway, his was the Good Shepherd.
Of
course. Yeah, the Good Shepherd.
That's cool.
So it was like, I think, Italia Airways, but it was called the Good Shepherd, and he had the Good Shepherd.
really?
So he wants to thank us at the end of the trip. So we're all in a line, and I have this on picture. And so for some reason, I think they said, put Gitschier in the front. So let that suck butt go first. Suck butt go first. So they're still ragging on me because they're pissed off. I was number 1. So I'm the first one in line. And that's when I kissed his ring, by the way. So and so there's a picture of me doing it. And then what was so funny is I was the first one, and there's 5 alongside. Every one of those guys kneeled down and tried to kiss his ring.
Wow. How many were actually Catholic?
Every one of them. I was the only practicing Catholic of the 6. One other guy was Catholic and he wasn't practicing.
Because you did that, you got all the other Secret Service
I didn't
guys
get them.
to try. Well, no, like your example had to have inspired them to follow your lead in that moment. Split-second decision.
Well, let me tell you the very next line of that conversation. The guy next to me, I'll just say he's from Florida. He's a good guy. He just was giving me a really hard time. We're friends, by the way. He was the most vocal loudmouth of the 6. Okay, he was right next to me, and so after I did that, he kneeled down, and I can't tell if he kissed the ring or he bowed his head down, something like that. And when the Pope went to the next guy, this guy so and so goes, "Oh my God, did you feel that?" I mean, it was legit. Looking at me like, "Oh my God, did you feel that?" And he's like, he's not really talking to me. He's just like, he's looking at his hand.
Disbelief.
But touching the Holy Father had just a huge. The guy never said another word to me for the rest of the trip. Right?
Wow.
That was a miracle in itself.
Yeah, and I got a picture of him doing it too. So it's like I'm blackmailing the guy.
Yes.
So anyway, that was kind of cool. That was a cool part of it. Yeah.
That had to have projected you onto a different spiritual path than maybe you expected.
Yeah, and I tried to deny it. I came back and got involved with St. Patrick's Men's Club, the Saturday morning Bible study.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. And they pick different guys. Okay, Chuck, you have the homily for this week for our group, and then you have the homily the week after, and so you get to read ahead and try to. What are you going to talk to the group about if you were going to do the homily? That was just a fun thing we did, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of enjoyed that, and then we were going down to Bardstown at the retreat center down there on the right as you go down Bardstown Road. You know what it's called, the
Nazareth.
Yeah, Nazareth. Mm-hmm. So we're going down there for the weekend retreat, and I'm riding with Deacon Jack Conrad, who was one of the first deacons, I guess, really in the East Louisville area. And do you remember him, Paul? Jack Conrad? Good guy. So he was the only deacon that we had in St. Patrick. So he says, "Hey, you mind if I ride with you?" I'm like, "No, sure, Deacon Jack. Good guy." We all really looked up to him. And so we're riding back, and I led part of the retreat, just a little part. And he goes, "Greg, I'm pretty sure God's calling you to become a deacon." I about drove off the road. I'm driving the car. I'm like, trying to get it back on the road. I'm like, "Deacon Jack, how can you say that?" I said, I've seen with the best of them, man. You can't say that to me. And he says, "No, I'm pretty sure he's calling you." So he said, "Just think about it. Just think about it." He wasn't pressuring me. Just think about it. So I'm like, "Oh, there's no way. I'm married. I got kids, little kids and everything." So I pushed it off. I did bodyguard some people for $1,000 a day, in full disclosure. I couldn't stand one of them. But I hated the fact that I was keeping him alive. I'll just leave it at that.
Dang.
I did keep him alive. I signed an NDA. I'll honor it. But, yeah. And I thought, man, this isn't worth it. This guy, I don't want to be the guy saving his life because, never mind. I'll just stop at that.
He ain't worth the bullet.
Yeah.
Just some hard feelings.
Yeah, but that's okay. It wasn't just me. But the other guy was a lot better, but I can talk about him because I didn't sign an NDA. He was the CEO of General Electric Worldwide, Jeff Immelt.
Oh.
And a lot of the GE people didn't like him because apparently he ran the stock into the ground, which is what we were told. But so I was
after Jack Welch.
Yeah, he's after Jack Welch.
Ran it up by destroying a bunch of other people's lives.
Well, whatever. I don't know the details, but we had. So the good thing about that detail was that NBC owned, GE owned NBC, which owned NBC Sports. So they had the Olympics for like 4 rotations in a row. So we got to go to the Olympics, first class.
Gosh, that's so
yeah.
incredible.
I did LA, I did Vancouver, Canada, I did London, England, and I did Russia.
Dang.
So-
And that's got to give you just such a wealth of perspective of the world, of just how communities work, governments work,
Yeah.
in a way that, I don't know, settles you in a different
Certainly.
lifestyle, different mentality.
And I just want to say one thing. I was raised to go to church, mass. So every weekend I'd go, well, where can I go to mass around here? I'm in Russia. I'm in third world Africa. I'm in China.
That's what I was about to ask.
I'm in
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Like, how do you do
I'm in
that?
Hong Kong. I'm in Bangkok. I'm of course in Australia. I think 24 countries in Africa. Most of them aren't nice countries, But all
wait.
I had to do was ask the person at the American Embassy, who's Catholic here? Oh yeah, I am. Where can I go to mass? Well, it's not really a church, but so you get the whole story. But I was just always felt compelled to go to mass. I just felt, and as a Christmas present every year, my dad would buy me a daily missal for that year. So I would read the prayers. It was in Swahili, but I know what they were saying because I'm reading it, and I knew when to stand up. I knew when to kneel,
That's why.
and
I mean, the fact that you remain committed to that had to have been like the thing that kept your faith. I mean, I met a college friend of mine on a retreat years ago, and she was talking about how she went to a foreign country, and she was basically uprooted from everything she ever knew, and no one really spoke her language. No one was Catholic or even Christian, and she had no idea where a church was and didn't know how to ask. And she literally started just losing her faith completely. And that was just one short 6-month study abroad, right? I can't imagine a whole career. If you weren't going to mass every week, there's no way you'd still be Catholic. I mean, there's some level of the Eucharist itself was giving you the ability to sustain, your faith. Right,
Yeah,
I mean that's the miracle.
I think so. Yeah.
And now you're a deacon.
Well, yeah. So I did the.
Big piggyback. How many people in your profession like fall away? Like,
I don't know.
I mean, like guys that you knew you came in with that maybe were religious, but because of the lifestyle.
People, I get this a lot, and it does irritate me. And they say, "Well, I used to be Catholic." Well, I used to be Catholic too. I used to be, and I'm like, well, dude, you still are Catholic because when you got baptized, the Holy Spirit's, you sealed your soul. Well, I don't pray. I said, well, you're still Catholic. You can go whatever church you want to, but I'm just telling you. So, but yeah, people will say that when they find out I'm a deacon, or I go to Secret Service convention. I go probably every 3 or 4 years, and last year was in Savannah, and that was a city I like, so I went there. My wife and I went there. And, I ran into a bunch of guys that I worked over with those 20 years with, and we told a lot of war stories. It's like the older we get, the better we were. We improved over years. These stories got bigger, and we did all the kind of stuff over some adult beverages. But it's good. But then they say, so I hear you're a deacon. I can't believe of all people, you're a deacon. That's always a nice one, right? And they're like, well, yeah, I used to be Catholic. And that's when I would say, yeah, you still are, dude. I promise. And I've had some reconnect with me through like Facebook or email saying, hey, why don't you send me some of your homilies? And matter of fact, I owe everyone a homily from last week that I'll tell them myself. I talked about it was the grapes in the vine, and you get, if you're not branches in the vine, right? So that was the homilies at St. Patrick's for all 3 masses. And what I try to do is I just, these people. Priests have been preaching this for 2,000 years. What am I going to come up with different? It's all been preached before, right? I can't come up with a brand new idea. I would never try to. But what I try to do is connect it to today's world. So I connected the branch and the vine and the power that you get by being connected to Jesus with this thing right here. So I held this up and I said, has anyone ever, first thing I asked is anyone in this audience, and we had a pretty good crowd too. We probably had 800 or 900 full on 11 o'clock. I said, has anyone in here never had one of these? And about 3 hands went up. I said, okay, we got a couple 4-year-olds,
Right.
So I said, now I know my audience. I said, now, has anyone ever lost this phone and didn't know where it was for a while? And almost every hand went up. I said, that feeling that you just had, That's the feeling you should get when you get disconnected from God.
Oh,
So that was it. So that was my whole theme right there. Because that feeling you get when, where's my phone?
Yeah.
That's what you should feel.
So that's what you should feel when you stop talking to God. I said, I'm not, and I even said, look, I'm not saying you need to do a novena or a rosary every day. It'd be great if you do. You don't have to do that. You don't even have to, say a bunch of prayers every day.
If you can just say the name Jesus.
Just talk
every
to
day,
him
right?
every day. And I always share that one of my favorite confirmation interviews at St. Patrick was a little girl, and I asked all the kids the same question. You get these like 7 or 8 questions you have to kind of ask for confirmation.
Yeah.
And I always have like a minute left over. I said, tell me just in your own words, what do you think God looks like? And they all look at me. I said, it's not a trick question. There's no right or wrong answer. Chuck, what do you think God looks like? If you had to describe him.
An eye.
An eye. Okay. John?
Some guy with a white beard. It looks like. No, I've never really thought
It's
about
an interesting.
that question,
Eric,
yeah.
try. You try.
he looks like you.
Yeah, right.
That was good.
Boy, this is a rough crowd.
I'd say he looks like Jesus.
The little girl said, I think God is I think it's like your favorite grandparent that just appreciates you calling or saying hi or sending an email or text. And I thought, man, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
Just think of your favorite grandparent that if you just call them out of the blue or you just, send a text or an email, you've made their whole day. It just lights them up, right? I said, that's what God's like. He just wants to hear from you. He just talk to them.
Do you think it's hard for people, even especially maybe in that profession, because you're trained to be instruments, obviously, of conflict, right? Like you're to fight conflict with, but to be at the tip of the spear, right? And it hardens you. It can harden you in a way, and maybe that kind of positions God like you. There's Old Testament God, and there's grandfather, pastoral.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a call every once in a while. It's hard for people to reconcile.
They always say there's no atheist in a foxhole, right? When those bombs are bursting and the bullets are zipping over your head.
We actually interviewed a World War II veteran. He passed away recently, but last year we got to interview him. He was 98 and a half. He
God bless
died
him.
at 99 and a half.
God bless him.
And he actually had a friend of his in his
Foxhole?
foxhole, literally, who was an atheist, ragging on him for being Catholic or
Right,
Christian. And he said, he was always like that until he got his head half blown off, and he begged me to baptize him. And I told him, man, you already have a desire to be baptized. You don't need to. And he said, no, find water, do it. And he did. He baptized him right there, and the man died in his arms.
Oh.
And as I interviewed him and we worked through the story, I was like, dude, you're getting ready to meet that guy.
Right. Yeah.
And now I'm like, I really like, wow. And that's what I'm talking about.
I've also heard the Mary Noel missionary tale of like there's only Catholics in a foxhole. Is their spin on it? So
That's good.
I think the story goes, and this was a true story, is all the foxholes around are getting bombed, and they're seeing the people die, and there's a priest in the foxhole with all the guys, and the priest stands up and he says, I'm gonna give absolution to all the Catholics and to everyone else. I'm gonna give a special blessing. And this Jewish fella stands up and he goes, to hell with the blessing, Father. Give us all absolution.
Yeah.
Give us the whole deal.
That's magnificent.
Yeah, it's scary. But
How did you, how would you say that, what were the steps that led you to become a deacon, like after John Paul II and those initial, waves of, I feel called, beyond just someone calling it out?
I kept pushing back and say, look, I can't. I'm not this guy, I can't wear a collar, like I said, I just wasn't a good role model. I just thought I'm not good enough to be a clergy. That's really what I honestly felt. And, and Deacon Jack and I had a lot of conversations about it. And, we kind of joked that, sinners make the best saints, stuff like that, and then of course he always loved saying, hey, when you invite people to church, you've heard this before, this isn't a museum of saints, it's a hospital for sinners, So I always love those two lines that, he would remind me of. But yeah, I said, you know what, Jack, I said, out of respect for you, I will apply to become a deacon. Okay. and I just know I'm going to get cut off somewhere down the road. I don't know if it's during the aptitude test or the polygraph test or whatever they're going to give me, or if the
That's your
psychological
secret service expectations coming out.
and psychological examination and all this stuff. I said, oh, there's no way I'm going to get through all this. I got little kids. I got 3 little kids, man. How am I going to do this? And, God will provide, and he obviously did. So here I am, But can I speak about being a deacon for a second?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I could ask this. So what is, like, non-Catholic? So what is it about deacons? I mean, so why would you even want to do this? What's the deal? You're not a priest, you're like a glorified altar boy, and so this is non-Catholic,
especially you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it couldn't even be some Catholics talking. I don't understand.
Well, so there's like, well, so what is the deal? And here's the deal in a nutshell. When you have, it's like your elevator speech, right? You have a minute or less. So I said, as a deacon, you get to be a small part of very important moments in someone's life. Think about it. They bring you their baby to baptize them, and you hold that baby up and say, I claim this soul for Christ. It's just, it still gives me, Hawaiians, when I lived in Hawaii, they called it chicken skin, goosebumps. But, I claim this soul for Christ. That's a powerful moment, Yeah. And so I love doing that. I just did a couple baptisms for babies this past month. And then I do wedding prep. I do probably about a dozen couples wedding prep. I got 3 going on right this week. I don't marry all 3 of them, but I do the wedding prep for them, and I help the priests out. So I do the focus. Well, I did your focus. So I do that. So I get to be a part of that. And then when I get to do the ceremony, that's very powerful. I mean, it's everything except the communion. Although I do weddings where I bring consecrated hosts with me, obviously. So they still get communion, but it's just not the full mass. And that's good for some people. So, and that's fine doing that too. But so, you get to do baptisms, weddings, and of course, funerals. And St. Patrick's used to be such a young parish when I moved here in 1999. Now, a lot of those people are starting to pass away. So it seems like we have, probably average 3-4 funerals a month, which never was the case. Now it is. And unfortunately, we've had a couple of young people pass recently. And but there you are. You're still there for these people at a very important moment in their lives. And I think that's one of the amazing things about, being a deacon. Of course, being up there and helping at Mass and reading the gospel, and they let you preach once in a while and all that. But, there's something powerful about that. And so what I've ended up doing is I've mixed both of my worlds. I always say I'm half cop, I'm half clergy. So I'm a police chaplain for 5 different police departments in the Louisville area. And, they never call me when something nice happens. It's like I got here a minute ago before we started. I call it the angel of death because that's how I nicknamed my call outs, because they only call me when someone's under a sheet, So, and it could be a vehicle accident, a work accident. It could be a homicide, which Louisville has, unfortunately way too many, or it could be a suicide. And I can tell you right now, suicides are up. I've been doing this. This is going on my 15th year. And I just seem like there's way too many suicides.
That's a depressing subject. If I want to ask you about the suicide epidemic. One, are you seeing it more among men or women? And then 2, are in the experiences that you had encountering it when it was happening, had these individuals had any connection at all with resources prior to that to help them deal with the weight that they were carrying that they felt they couldn't carry?
So I'll bring, without obviously any privacy issues.
Sure.
I did one recently, and it was a young man. I shouldn't even say that, I guess, but it was a young person in their early 20s. And the parent said, we've taken him to so many doctors. He has a therapist, he has a medical doctor, he has a psychologist. He's on meds. And we really thought he was straightening out.
Yeah.
So the mom took the patient, took the man to the doctor that morning, dropped him off, went to church to a women's Bible study, came home, and he had killed himself in the garage. And and she was just like, why? I mean, we've done everything we could. We've taken him to therapists, we've taken him to counseling. So that, it's one of those things. I think I've learned as a cop, and not to be hard about it, but it's usually, not always, the person who talks about suicide a lot is just trying to get that attention. Not always, but I'm just saying, if they're talking about it, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to tell my friend, or I'm going to do this, or don't make me do this. It's the people that you're scared of are the ones that don't, they just do it. They're not going to sit there and say, well, I got a half a bottle of pills here. I guess I'm going to take them unless you come over here now. You know what I'm saying? So it always makes you wonder, because you hear a lot about it. And of course, you got to take every one of those seriously. Got to get them help. But, a lot of times they're just trying to get that attention, which obviously they need. They're carrying some kind of burden. I do think for a fact that younger people seem to have much more anxiety in today's world than an old person like me,
Well, I think there's a lot of addiction, a lot of abuse, and you can obviously overuse the word addiction or abuse in different ways, where maybe it's just you have really bad habits, bad coping mechanisms, or maybe there's just a lot of drama in your life and you're taking things too seriously. But there are legitimate things like that hold people captive,
Strongholds.
Right, strongholds, and that's what it is. It's thought patterns, it's habits, it's belief systems, and
I think
it's
a lack of
people
community.
in their life. Lack of community,
Or lack of
isolation.
people, yeah.
And these are all like the signs of Egypt in someone's life, right? I mean, you call these call outs the angel of death. I mean, all of the things that you're responsible for being present to people on some level brings like a sense of, even if they don't recognize it, a sense of Passover, because the angel of death only came. You call it, there it is, right? I mean, the fact that angel of death came in the book of Exodus about the moment the Israelites were being passed over so that their firstborn was spared. And then what did they do? They had to flee across the wilderness, through the Red Sea, into the wilderness, just to escape and find real freedom, that first sense of deliverance. So to really help someone overcome that kind of depression or anxiety, self-hatred, or suffering, there has to be that person who enters into their darkness to provide a light of hope. And that's what you seem to be doing so much, Deacon. I mean, that's so cool and beautiful.
Just had a man shot.
I bet it's hard.
Just now had a man murdered in Louisville. See how fast it comes, though.
Yeah,
it's just crazy. Right?
How do you remain filled up with a sense of hope and peace when you are being filled with the things you see and read and the people that you witness that are going through such darkness?
Well, I tell you what's sad, John, is when I go to the scene. So the police officers, they get the call, they go to the scene, the body's covered up, so the family's distraught. These folks need a chaplain. So radio, can you send me a chaplain, such and such address? Boom, I get the call, angel of death. So I roll out there as quick as I can, and I show up, and I don't say, well, what denomination are you? I don't say, I just roll up. Is it something I can do? I ask the officer, well, what's going on? And, what do you know about it? The family here is, whatever. And I kind of get a little background. And then I said, well, can you point out the mom or the sister or the son or whatever? And then I'll talk to them. I've had people say, oh, no, thanks. We don't believe in God. It's just, no, you're wasting your time here, pal. We don't believe in God. So, what do you do at that point? You're like, okay, well, I'm still gonna pray for you, brother. Like that. And it's their house. They don't want you. They don't want you. A lot of people say, well, we don't have a church, because I always say, is there a pastor I can call for you? Because I'm here just for now, but I'm gonna go home, and now you're gonna have to deal with this for the next few days, because they're gonna take the body, maybe get an autopsy, they might do the funeral arrangements. I said, you need to is there a pastor I can call? And I can't tell you how many times they go, no, we don't go to church. No, don't really have anybody. Yeah, and I think that's reality. That's what it is. And it's just what it is. So what are you going to do? And to answer your first question is, for all these first 13 years, I could sort of say it never bothered me. As a police officer, I was on the dive team, and we pulled a lot of dead people out of the Ohio River, that either got jumped or murdered or somehow fell. At the scene, when that area of town I worked in, we had plenty of homicides. We had some really bad car accidents, motorcycle accidents. People burned up in cars. So I have seen a lot of dead people. Okay, that's just what I did for a living. And I can say most of them didn't bother me. But recently, I'll just be real careful how I say this, there was a call, and it was a young teenager that shot themselves. And it was more than, it got to me because the officers that responded had a kid the same age. And they immediately, I'm trying not to go into detail here. They immediately tried to do CPR, and because the hair was down and the shirt was all blood, they thought they shot themselves in the chest, which I think I would have probably done the same way, running in there, because they're like, they're in there, and they come running in the house. And it was afternoon, and they run in there, and they start CPR, and the blood and brains come out of the enter and exit wound in front of them, and that freaked them out beyond belief, right? So not only did I have, and the brothers and sisters were right next door studying. They just got home from school. So it was just a crazy situation, you know what I'm saying? And I asked I need an additional chaplain because, you got parents, you got kids, you got two officers are just, devastated. And it was a tough one. So, and it was during a holiday. And so I went home, sat on a very cold, my porch. And even though my kids had all come back from college and I really wanted to see them desperately, I had trouble going inside. And that's the first time it's ever affected me, and I realized that I was getting an adrenaline dump, right? Because I'd just been in this intense situation for 3 hours. And then I drove home in kind of a stupor. I got there. And I was just, I think that's the first one that really affected me. And then I started having dreams about it. And it reminded me that when I was a 21-year-old kid on Dixie Highway, I made a suicide by a high school student with a shotgun under and his mom found him, with the results of that on the back wall. And I had tucked that away for 45 years. But this one opened that door back up. And I remember, because I was the first officer at the scene, trying to deal with the mom, and the child that had done this. So at that point, even my wife said, hey, man, you got to go talk to somebody because you're not acting right, And it was just because I got real quiet. I'm usually a smart aleck. You know that, Chuck, right? You know that too. Yeah. So I'm usually a smart aleck, kind of, a little bit of mouthy and stuff. And I guess I just clammed up. And she's like, you got to go talk to somebody. This isn't right, And great advice from a loving wife of 30 years. So I did. I went to a police therapist who was good. He does a lot of military and police, and I just needed to talk it out with him. It's kind of like you see on TV. Well, how does that make you feel? So what did you think? But he was very good, and I liked it, and it helped me. And so now I certainly recommend to people because it doesn't have that. If you went to a therapist 20 years ago, you were a nut job. Right. Right? But
it definitely had a stigma years
ago.
It
definitely had a stigma. But anyway, it did help me.
No, you're good.
I was gonna ask because this goes, I guess, to the heart of what we're talking about. Like, what do you, in your own experience, how have you dealt with mental health in a very stressful job, like probably maybe one of the most stressful jobs and some of the most stressful situations? And I don't know, like, how are you helping people as a deacon now cope with that? Some of the things that Eric and John have said towards connecting, like, I guess, biblical counseling with mental health dynamics. I don't know.
Well, I don't feel like I have a diploma on the wall to get into a lot of stuff. And, and that includes a marriage counselor. When I talk to these young couples, I said, look, I don't have a PhD up for it.
But experience is so
I have
valuable.
30 years of marriage, and God bless my brother priest, but that's something they don't have is, but 99% of them don't have marriage experience. So I can help bring that to family. But one thing I say, and lately I have been doing funerals for friends, moms and dads. And, I'm honored that they would ask me to do that because obviously this is extremely personal, and one dad, they were pulling the ventilator out because everything stopped, ceased. And they asked me to be there for that, which I was for 3 or 4 hours, but and that was a very tough time for them. But they just said, it brought them a lot of peace because I did pray as much as I could, and then when you got to wait to the process because without getting in detail, the body goes through a certain thing, and then I just did a gravesite ceremony. I've done 2 actually for friends after that, and I always say the same thing to them, and I don't know where I got this. I can't take credit for it, but I never do a funeral mass or homily or gravesite without saying this, that everyone here has to understand that we're all God's children first. We're all his family first. He just loans us to our families for a certain period of time. And then he wants us to come home, And I think that has helped people kind of deal with it, right? Because he just wants his kids back, and he gives us all that opportunity to come back, right? We all get that opportunity. But you got to let him go because he wants his kids back, and hopefully, and I always say you can honor this person's death by doing the right thing, and having God part of your life.
It seems to speak to what you do with your work in the summer camp. When I was in high school, this is when I first met you. Mm-hmm. My dad, I needed service hours for DeSales. Mm-hmm. So my sophomore, junior, senior year, and my brother and I grew up with my dad as an amateur radio operator. So he had connected with you, and I can't even remember how he connected.
WLRS. I'd come in and do the for Vince. I'd do that.
Oh, WLCR.
I mean, what LRS? God, I'm dating myself. That was an FM rock and roll station here in the '90s. God, sorry.
Yeah.
LCR. Sorry. So when they do the fundraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would come in for that 1 4-hour period or whatever it was as a disc jockey.
We did that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We did that recently.
And your dad was always around a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how we met.
Oh, okay.
That's
how
we met.
So my brother and I got to actually work with these kids.
He's talking about Kids Cancer Camp, and it used to be called Indian Summer Camp, but
it was Indian Summer Camp
right there. Yeah, Kids Cancer Alliance now, but so that was great. You came up, and we loved. Well, see, all of our counselors. These children are all been diagnosed with cancer, ages probably 5, 6 to 18. 18 is the cutoff, and we've had over 120 at one time. All kids have been diagnosed. Some are in remission. Some are just getting diagnosed. Some are getting chemo up there.
And some kids had signs that said "Do not resuscitate" on them. Right? It was very, very unique environment.
Yeah.
Hard. I can't imagine.
The whole idea of this camp was to let these kids be kids.
Yeah.
Because they've been living in these, clinics and getting chemo and getting poked and prodded and, IVs and all this stuff. This is a 1-week pass from that misery to come up and be a kid. And we've had kids, I'm not exaggerating one iota, we've had kids die almost immediately after going home from our camp because they just wanted to hang on for one more time. And I thought, man, God bless the parents for letting them go, because I know it had to be so hard because they know that the kid was on his last lap. But the kid wanted to come up with his camp, and we'd have these campfires. We were called Indian Summer Camp because it was based on Indians, and then the wokeness happened, so we had to change our name. But
sorry.
Did you change yourself to Commander Camp?
Yeah,
Commander Camp.
I should have.
Washington Commanders.
But they'd get feathers, and then we'd have a big campfire, and we'd welcome the new ones in. The old ones would get another kind of feather as they left, And but the graduates made our best counselors because they lived the life. Yeah. So and you couldn't be a counselor until you were 19 or 20, but they lived that life, and some of them were supposed to die throughout camp and never did. And it's very powerful for a brand new parent to bring their babies up there with cancer and find out that this guy or girl that's going to take care of their baby was in the same position 12 years ago, and they weren't supposed to live. And now they're not only alive, but they're married and they have children. So that was a great source of power that your counselor was one of our kids. I've been with them for almost 25 years. I was their first executive director, and I've been on the board ever since. And we have the best fundraiser. I'll brag on it. All summer long we sell out, and this year we raised over $780,000 profit in one night. because we have so many people generously donating their. You've been to one,
I've been on one. Yeah,
you've been to one.
It's
a good party, right?
It's a good party,
and it's really well done. And you don't have to wear tuxes. You can if you want, but you can wear blue jeans and cowboy boots. But seriously, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But so with all that money, we're able to not only provide these camps totally free. We pay for gas to get the kids there. We'll quietly come in and pay medical bills if the single parent can't afford it. We will quietly take care of any funeral expenses if they can't afford it. And then we, at the end of 18, they can't come back anymore. We hope the good ones become counselors, but we actually now do about 6 college scholarships a year. That's what we do with the money.
Wow.
So the family and these kids have gone through all this hell, and now they're 19. And if they can maintain a C average, we will pay their tuition. For 4 years.
Deacon, what you are being given by God is such a profound task. Like, it's like God is channeling all of that energy that you had in your time serving the government and now serving the church and outside the church even, like just people, giving them hope on a level that wasn't just protecting their bodies or their lives, but really protecting their souls, and giving them a deeper sense of peace about their darkness that they're facing with trust in the resurrection and the light. That to me is thank you for your service.
Yeah. No,
truly. That's all you can say in this situation, right?
God's been very good to me.
Yeah.
What can I
awesome.
say?
Yeah. I know there's one thing I did want to mention because Maggie, who works here at the cathedral, she's been here for many years, has worked with you with the Blue Mass. And I know that as in a recent phenomenon the last 5-10 years, I think, something like that.
Actually, I started it maybe 15 years ago, but it died out.
Yeah,
right after
can you
9/11.
describe what that looks like and how that affects the cathedral and the archdiocese?
So I feel like I'm talking about myself too much. Anyway, right after 9/11,
We're the ones asking the questions.
a year after 9/11, I was assigned to so we also protect, obviously the Pope is a good example. If the head of a country comes to America, the Secret Service protects them. So I was protecting this guy on 9/10 up in, he was at the Mayo Clinic up in, what was it, Milwaukee, where the Mayo Clinic is? I think it's Milwaukee. Anyway, we're up there. And so on 9/11, we all going to take him into New York City because in September, the second week of September, the whole world's leaders come to New York City at the UN building. So it's like the convention for world leaders, right? New York. So this guy I was assigned to, we're leaving the Midwest and we're flying into New York City, and then 9/11 hits. So they won't let any planes, obviously come in. So we're back into where's the Mayo Clinic? Gosh darn it!
I think it's in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's Minnesota.
Yes,
Okay,
it's Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to put it in my mind. Anyway, so we're sitting at the airport because we don't know what exactly happened. We don't know if they're going to let us take off in 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever. So we're there, and so then the next a day or two later, we were cleared to go back into New York City. So I saw the devastation within 36 hours of it happening. Smoke and bodies and still digging for people and stuff.
That
had a profound effect on me because
that happened before the UN summit.
Well, it happened on 9/11. The UN summit's the second week of September. So
snap.
our guy was coming in.
Gosh.
So what happens?
I didn't even realize.
Yeah, these world leaders, they'll come in for American medical attention, and obviously Mayo Clinic is one of the best, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the guy was doing. He's getting
Okay.
checked. It happened a lot. So they would, even though their official trip was to New York, they'd do a side trip to do medical stuff. So that's why we weren't in New York City at the time. So anyway, when we got there in 36 hours, it was still mass devastation. So it had a profound effect on me. So the following year, I guess it was 2002, I said I just started the Knights of Columbus Council in St. Patrick's, and I said, hey, let's let's get together and do a blue mass for because I knew New York City had a blue mass and stuff. So let's do a blue mass for all of our first responders. That's how it got started. Now I wasn't planning on doing it every year, so I think I did it that first anniversary. Then I thought, well, I'll do it on the 5th anniversary or something, and it sort of died out. Probably my fault. But then Maggie started, and it's like, oh yeah, I've done this before. Let's do it. So I've tried to help her a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who comes? How does this look? And...
So we get people from the fire department. We get the bagpipes. We get the police. We get the state trooper. A good friend of mine he's a lieutenant colonel for the state police. He'll bring some troopers down here. And we read all the first responders that have died in the line of duty in Louisville since 9/11. So, so it's kind of like, hey, you served our community. We still haven't forgotten you. You know what I'm saying? Even though, at the very first one, we might have done it since like 1950, which took forever to read all those names. But now we start doing it after 9/11. So just want to let people know. And then we invite their families to come. Even though your son or daughter gave their life 17 years ago, we have not forgotten what they did.
Gold Star.
Yes, we have not forgotten what they've done.
So I think we've covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're involved in so many important things. We usually, I don't want to even call it a plug considering all the things that you do. But is there anything else that people should be aware of that we haven't touched upon yet?
No, I mean, I think the world's a little upside down, and I think people are nervous. They come to me a lot, and they want some of my expertise, not so much on religion, but on how to protect themselves and their families. With the riots that we had here and things that are going on in this presidential election, that could be riots on whoever wins. You could expect maybe some bad, confrontations in cities, and carjacking's up. That's no secret. Carjacking's up. You're getting more and more burglaries and road rage incidents, and it's scary. I ask everyone to please continue praying. But, you still have to have a situational awareness around you. It's not we don't live in Mayberry. So you got to lock your cars. You got to lock your doors. You got to be aware of your surroundings. I can remember picking my daughter up from college, and the college kids would be walking around at night on the campus. And, their face would be lit up with Facebook, and earbuds in, and have no concept if somebody came up behind them or something, So situational awareness is very, very, very important, And one thing about anxiety I just thought of, there's a big difference between hearts and likes on from your fake friends as compared to, friendship with real people.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is part of the anxiety because, a kid, I think it happened in one of the cases I talked about where that young person posted a picture of themselves and people were making fun of it. And I think that's devastating. That was devastating to this person. They committed suicide. Yeah. So they got social bullying over something ridiculous of fake friends who they might not even, who they are. But, these are typewriting heroes that, type out these, nasty things or messages. And so, I would encourage people to, social media is a big part of our life. Obviously, we're addicted to these things. I think I am. But we got to have real friends, too. You got to have real interaction. Yeah. You should go to church. You should do stuff with your family.
Be physically present with people.
Go out with your friends. Play a friendly game of basketball, volleyball, or horseshoes or something, cornhole. But you got to get away from this network because, there's people controlling algorithms, and I don't know a lot about it, but they just let you see what they want you to see on news alerts or.
So you got to be very intentional.
You have to be aware.
Eric, you teach young children. You talk about this all the time about how they don't have.
Oh yeah, keeping the being as intentional as possible about keeping some of that technology out of their hands. It's not technology's neutral, but it can, because it's neutral, it can also be used for evil. And there's so much going on there that I don't even think the science is out there on how addictive it is and in the ways that it rewires your brain.
We're only 20 years into this mega transformation since Facebook was founded in 2004.
Right.
YouTube in 2005. So we're very early on in these days.
Digital drugs.
Now you got AI.
Gosh.
They're going to have they're going to have, one side's going to have one politician saying something outrageous, and that side's going to have another making up stuff. It's all AI.
Well, not only
it's not
that,
real.
Then they had two people that aren't even real arguing.
Well, not only that, people are literally falling in love with AI-generated robots.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
Well, on that note, John, I think we're going to close out the episode.
That's a good one, man.
As we close out here, will you sign my my 8-year-old copy of the Sneakin' Deacon?
Sneakin' Deacon from Secret Service to Secret
and
Service.
If I'll give you all my number. If somebody wants to, I've donated $9,000 to Kids Cancer Alliance, and it's actually on the second page here where it says this is dedicated to Kids Cancer Alliance.
I love that.
Wasn't making that up. Who should I make this out to?
Eric Huff. I gave out.
Just you?
I gave out all of my maybe to the Huff family. I gave out all of my signed copies for Christmas gifts many years ago.
Nice. All right, here we go.
He's your biggest disciple.
That's right.
Yeah, well, I got more to sell if anybody's interested, so we'll keep it going. I love donating the money to them. It's for a good cause.
Thank you so
Eric,
much,
for
Deacon
buying it.
Greg. Yeah, thanks for being here today. This was
Enjoyed it.
awesome.
Truly.
I think we're gonna.
God's
go
been
ahead
good to
and
me,
close
and
out.
I'm giving back. That's really what it comes down to. God's been very good to me and my family, and now this is my chance to
Pay
give
it forward.
back. So it's very
Amazing.
simple.
And thank you, fellas, for being here. Patrick behind the scenes.
Yeah, seriously.
Patrick,
And
St. Patrick's
Patrick,
boy.
send it on to
That's right.
his camera.
St. Patrick. St.
All right.
Patrick, go to camera 1.
Where's camera on?
All right.
There you
it
go.
is.
All right. And we'll see you guys next time with more Spirit and Spire.